bled to death. That was a big thing. My neighbor directly across the street heard a gunshot, like immediately, thank God. He goes, you were laying there, and I'm coming towards you, and you're not moving, and I'm calling your name, and I'm saying, Mary Jo, because he goes, I didn't want to scare you. I thought maybe you were just resting.
That is the very courageous Mary Jo Buttafuoco. The special was on 2020 this past Friday, Growing Up Buttafuoco, and her daughter narrated the special. 10 years ago, she wrote the book, Getting It Through My Thick Skull, Why I Stayed, What I Learned, and What Millions of People Involved with Sociopaths Need to Know. Every New Yorker knows this story 27 years ago already. Her ex-husband had this affair, and Mary Jo, who was just a real nice lady, housewife and loyal wife, and ended up in the middle of a big mess, no fault of her own, and became famous, which she didn't want, just living in Massapequa, had a nice little home life, she thought, until her ex-husband ruined that. And years later, almost 3 decades later, she's talking about this. And by the way, and she needs to know this, it's very helpful because there's a lot of women out there in bad relationships where they are both physically and mentally tortured, and they stay. And Mary Jo stayed. And they don't always want to stay, but they just can't figure a way to get out. And when they do, most of the time, the story has a happy ending. And I think that's been the case for Mary Jo, now living in California. And joining us right here on the Bernie and Sid in the Morning Show early there. Mary Jo, sweetheart, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, you just said it all. Good night. I'm going back to bed.
Okay, good night.
It was nice talking with you.
No, well, listen, it's true. Unfortunately, I know women like that, including, we just met for the first time, but and you can really emphasize on that now, can't you?
Well, here's what it is. You know, I have some people that say, why do you drag this out? Why does this go on? And I have to say, for other people, I tell my story so that other people, if they're going through anything similar, divorce, cheating, cancer, anything, that they can survive what they are going through now. If I could do it, they can do it. And my story is just that. It's more, yes, I have to go back to tell the story so that I don't, how far I've come. This shows me how far I've come. And that's the point of telling the story, rehashing it, to show that there is hope, there is life on the other side of this insanity.
And Mary Jo Buttafuoco, you go by the name now Mary Jo Connery. I just want to clear that up. Mary Jo, listen, our board op here, he was born in 1989, and this, of course, happened to you in 1992. So yes. Some people not so familiar, not all that familiar, but you stayed, as Sid alluded to, you stayed with Joey until 2003, and then...
Well, no. I mean, we divorced in 2003, but we separated in 99. But I guess because legally, the papers came out, but we split up in 99. But listen, the point, you're right. Why did I stay? And I kind of explained it in the book. And if you saw the special, I unfortunately was married to a very good liar. And, he convinced me that he had nothing to do with her. And not only me, my family, his family, our friends. It went on for a long time that way.
You clearly loved him. You believed what he had to say. You wanted to stay with him, even after you went through a horrific tragedy. So no one could question your loyalty or love for him.
Yeah, I did, but people have said that to me, like, well, why did you stay? And after you've been shot in the head, it's really hard to make decisions.
Right.
And it's like you're on a lot of medication and pills, and then, of course, the insanity of it all. I couldn't think straight. There was nowhere. I wasn't strong. My children were young. What could I do? I mean, I've looked back. As you said, I'm an old woman now. I'm a senior citizen. And I think, could I have done, should I have done different, better, whatever? And it's like, no, I did everything the way I thought it was supposed to be done. Every choice I made, I thought at the time was a good choice or a right choice. And now looking back, I raised my children. They're wonderful people. You saw my daughter.
Yep.
She's a strong woman. And she's always saying, Mom, that's because of you. And I mean, it looks like, this housewife stayed around and she was a dopey old housewife. But I look at my daughter, who's now the age I was when I got shot, and she's strong and she's together. And it's like, I did my job.
That's
I hung in
awesome.
there.
That is awesome. So listen,
Thanks.
this happened in 92. You divorced Joey 11 years later. You stuck around for 7 years. What happened specifically in 1999, 7 years after the fact, that you decided at that point, okay, Joe, enough's enough?
Yeah. Well, here it is. The reasons that I stayed in the beginning were not the reasons in 1999. I got sober. I was on a lot of medication, anti-anxiety. I was on Oxycontin, which back in the day, it wasn't regulated the way it is now. You just, refilled the prescription, said, I don't feel good. They gave you another prescription for it. And it was in 1998 when I wound up going into the Betty Ford Center, and I got sober and I got strong, and they explained to me that this is something you have to live with, Mary Jo. My anger always kept me down.
Resentment. You got to get rid of that resentment. You got to get rid of it.
Yes. And so slowly I started to get stronger mentally, physically. The children grew up, and it was like all the reasons that I stayed were no longer there anymore. And I knew I had to go. It was a toxic relationship. I knew it for a long time, but I just didn't have the inner strength or ability to do it earlier than that.
Mary Jo Connery on the Bernie and Sid show on WABC, formerly Mary Jo Buttafuoco, the book, which she wrote 10 years ago, and you can still get it on Amazon.com. It's called Getting It Through My Thick Skull. Now, listen, Amy Fisher, the little psycho who perpetrated this horror on you, I mean, she apologized and she wrote you letters. A, do you accept her apology, or did you? I know you did, but do you still accept it? And B, does she try to contact you these days?
A, do I accept her apology? I don't think she means it. I think it's just talk. Because if you look at where she is in life now, she's 45 years. That little Long Island Lolita is now 45 years old.
Wow.
And she does webcamming for a living. That's what she does. She's a sex seller. Do I believe her? I don't think she believes herself. She's a very narcissistic, sad person. She says the words, but she doesn't talk the talk.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, as bad as she was, your ex-husband was worse. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of times I saw your ex-husband on television, on various TV shows, making money and really taking advantage of what happened to you. It didn't seem like, quite frankly, and I say this with a heavy heart, it just didn't seem like he cared all that much.
Well, I don't know if you saw the special. We talked about that in it, that I just was incredulous that he just seemed to like all the attention.
Yep.
And even when, it supposedly was over, he just kept going and going and going, and it didn't stop. And I didn't understand then that there's this need in sociopaths to have the attention. I didn't get it then. So, it was a bone of contention between the two of us for years. I kept saying, just shut up. And he just wouldn't.
And he forced you to do all those talk shows, from what I understand.
Well, he didn't. I didn't do all those talk shows. I did Phil Donahue, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. Oh. And then I stopped as far as him and me going on the Clear Joey's Name tour, as I always called it. But, it just was a lot of stress, a lot of tension. People were pulling at me left, right, and sideways, and I was almost murdered. That's the amazing thing. I was almost murdered.
Yeah.
And yet I'm being put on display and put out there and talk about this and do that and defend him and blah, blah, blah. It was insane. It was just, I can't even explain, even to this day, how I got through it.
You know where he is today, what he's doing, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, we have children together, and we have a grandchild together, so I have seen him on occasion.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's cordial.
Right, several at best.
And you still have that, sadly, you still have that bullet lodged in your, where it landed, in your neck.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
That sucks.
And yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it causes me a lot of pain and a lot of issues.
Really? It still causes you pain, still?
Oh, my God, yes.
Oh,
my God.
Horrible.
I try to explain this to anybody who's been shot, and unfortunately there's way more of those kind of people out there than not. You don't get well from a bullet. A bullet is designed to rip and tear and destroy. And when it goes in you, whether you've been shot, you ask Curtis Lewa what it feels like to have a bullet. If he's okay.
Right.
He's not.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's not. No.
as we get older and we're the same age, complications arise from this this thing that's in your, this piece of lead that's in you. And I mean, I have no hearing in my right ear. I'm partially paralyzed. I have a lot of issues as a result, and they don't get better when you get older. I mean, that's just the facts.
Wow.
Well, God bless you. You're an incredibly courageous woman. You have been for the better part of 3 decades, and you're doing some very good stuff today because lots of ladies out there that are in a similar boat, and they need to hear from people like you. Yeah. So we wish you the best out there in California.
And that's the point.
And buy her book, too, because she's still, it's important that the story gets out, but she still gets royalties from the book.
Yeah, we want that, too.
So the book is called, what is it called again, Sid?
Getting It Through My Thick Skull, Why I Stayed, What I Learned, and What Millions of People Involved with Sociopaths need to know.
Amazon.com.
Yeah, great job, Mary Jo. God bless you. We love you. Be well.
You.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
You got it. Take care, sweetie.